I'm Michael Mosey with On The Gamer, and I'm joined with Rob, one of the developers of the My Little Pony card games, and Dean, president of Enterplay. So, My Little Pony card game, where exactly did the idea come from to make a collectible card game, especially since Enterplay has made plenty of trading cards for the series?
Well, our background actually in this industry was from trading card games. Our graphic designers have worked on some of the biggest games. They've worked on Star Wars, Star Trek, Lord of the Rings, among others, for trading card games. And we've had, I used to also handle sales for Pokemon trading card game with Nintendo. So we have a background for quite a few years in trading card games, and we've always been keeping our eyes out looking for different brands that might fit. And we've had quite a few brands since we started Enterplay in 2006, but none of them were quite a good fit, right? As when we launched Pony a year and a half ago, as soon as we hit the streets, we noticed that the fans buying our products seemed to be a subset of gamers. And so we've done a couple of surveys asking people for their feedback and what they might like, and overwhelming response has been CCG, and for CCG, collectible card games. So, we started thinking about it and agreed with Hasbro that we would do it, and I don't even know when we agreed, December or January or something, maybe longer than that. And gave it our code name Frank, so no one would understand, or it wouldn't slip that the CCG was coming until we decided to. But it really came from seeing who the crowds were that were buying this product. And we were selling a lot of product and really passionate fans that happened to also be gamers, so it kind of made sense.
What process went into developing the card game, from going to Hasbro and figuring out how a format of the game would work?
Well, really, when we discussed it with Hasbro, it was a matter of whether or not we were going to do the card game, and not necessarily what the game would be, what the mechanics would be, or what the theme of the game would be. As long as we stuck closely with the brand, of course, maintain the integrity of the brand and make it appropriately Pony. In fact, so we put our team together and of really strong game designers, and came up with some concepts of what would make sense. We worked through some iterations of it, and we felt comfortable enough with it, and we presented to Hasbro probably 2 weeks before we announced it at BronyCon, right? Mm-hmm. And but they hadn't, they were sending us email, how's Frank coming along, and when can we see the update, and we're chomping at the bits ourselves, but pun intended. But it was an internal process. Now we've gone to them, we showed it to them, they loved the concept, and then we keep iterating, and we've been iterating the game all the way up until maybe a couple days ago.
A big part of the decision process of how to make the game what it would become is the IP doesn't really support it being a battle game. A lot of the big popular games have clashes of monsters, clashes of Pokemon, etc., etc. We knew from the beginning that this game had to be based around problem solving and race to the finish rather than race to the pummel.
And that's the big thing, because when everybody thinks of a trading card game, they think of battling. So everybody wants a Magic the Gathering, right. My Little Pony.
You brought up Magic the Gathering, which for a lot of fans who, when they found out that there was going to be a card game, there's a lot of mock images of a Magic the Gathering with ponies plastered on the picture. Yep. Was that any truth to that? Did the cards look any close to what the mock images were? Or were they always?
No, we've not. It's frankly, when it started off, up until maybe, I don't know, when we showed, just before we showed them, we were only using pieces of paper with icons. The game designers don't generally put artwork on what they're doing. They come up with mechanics and they work through mechanic issues. But that was never the case. It's just people fantasize. You know, Magic's an incredible game, and they got this huge fan base, and people just fantasizing that they could get that. So they did that. We weren't involved in any of that.
So, when creating the cards, a lot of the images are from the actual show, from actual episodes. Why go that route rather than having original art put onto the cards?
The big issue is timing, right? So it's a daunting task to develop a trading card game and to launch it. And so with all the people that it takes to come up with the gameplay and to play test and to modify the text and the flavor text and the icons, and there's so many people working on the project. Then if we're going to throw in also on a new game, and then we're going to throw in artists that would be creating art that meets the game mechanics of a specific card, you know, we'd have to design it first, then go to the artists and wait, or we'd just have to make this huge pool of art. It just didn't make sense. And we said, you know, for the core set, the very first set premiere, we're going to do polls. I'm not saying that there is no original art in the set. There might be an original image or two in there, but we're not going to tell people what that is yet.
Okay.
Another big part of using those images and of the process of going back and forth with artists is, in the time frame we had, is as the game evolves, the game text keeps changing. The cards we have in front of us right here are significantly different from what was at Gen Con.
Right.
So as the card text changes, the original theming, the original this card costs 1 pink and lets you draw 3 cards, what event from the show makes sense to actually be what this card represents? Well, if that card's gone and another card comes in, if we already have an artist who is drawing a picture that fits that original card, their new picture might not be useful for a card in this set. So that's part of the back and forth. So as the game was developing, we wanted to make sure that we had the resources available to us to literally in 1 hour turn one card into another card if we needed to.
We'll have we're going to add some fun content in the next couple sets.
As the mechanics of the game were actually nailed into place for permanence, that meant that the cards would stop changing as dramatically, and at that point we really can have a lot of fun.
So, developing the rules and how the mechanics work, how much time was put in before even pitching the idea to Hasbro?
We had a relationship with Hasbro for quite a while, so we've talked to them a few years ago about trading card games and that. And so with what rules or game mechanics, we agreed before there were any game mechanics. We agreed that we wanted to move forward. They had faith. We had faith. It was, it was good.
Pretty platonic.
It's great working with them, and they're incredibly supportive, and they want the same thing that we all want. They want really nice product that fans are going to love, and they had faith in what we were doing. And like I said, we literally did not discuss the mechanics of the game until about 2 weeks before we announced it. So when they saw it, we had an incredible amount of man hours already into it, and it was a fairly polished game. It just hadn't been overly play tested. But at the same time, we didn't want to present something to them that was half-assed. We wanted to go in and have something that they would embrace. So we had to put a lot of effort into it.
Going back to the developing the game, you say you put many man hours in before you even presented it to Hasbro.
Presented the game. We'd already agreed that we're going to do it. And,
right, before presenting the game, how rough were the rules when that pitch was when the game was originally shown off?
Gen Con level, right?
Yeah.
We essentially showed them mocks of what was printed for Gen Con. You could have easily sat down with what we showed them and played a full game and had fun.
Yeah, we were actually we were asking for their approval on the cards right there, and we're saying, here's the game. Hope you like it, and could you please approve this so we can print these off and show them at Gen Con?
So the approval process for each card, were there any cards that Hasbro asked for personally, or was there anything that they asked to be added into the game? So it was completely creative freedom for you guys.
Yeah.
Okay. So problem solving. It's part of the show. It's a big part of the game.
Yeah.
Instead of just battling out like a magical duel between Twilight and Trixie, you decided to go strictly with problem solving, so that way any of the main characters, including the Earth ponies like Pinky and Applejack, can have a moment. Why go with problem solving? Why not go with a magical duel or best talent or anything like that?
Well, the interesting thing about the problem-solving angle is it is a purely competitive game. There is no actual cooperative aspect to this game. But realistically, in the mechanics of the game, when both players solve the same problem, that is when the problem is really resolved. It's interesting. So it's almost like it lets it be cooperative while still being completely competitive. And the other way is to solve both problems yourself. Then it actually makes the whole thing go away. You've calmed the whole situation down so much. But
it's the spirit of Pony.
Yeah, I mean,
it's what every episode's about. It's what
But on a gameplay level, it lets everyone get in on the action everywhere, trying to help, and it becomes this dynamic situation of characters moving between problems, and what's going on here. Oh no, Parasprite's attacked with this problem that was already bad. Now it's even worse. It's the show.
So with season 4 coming up, and of course, Princess Twilight Sparkle, she's not in the card game yet, right? So will we see an updated Twilight Sparkle before the game releases, or is that?
Well, we don't know what they're going to be showing on television. I mean, we're privy to what's in the scripts, but we don't know when they're going to show which episode or any of that. So,
there will be an Alicorn Twilight card for sure, but maybe not in set 1.
Okay. So since you guys say that you're in on the scripts, but you don't know exactly what's going to be shown,
or when,
or when it's going to be shown, it was the same way with the comics that the artists and the writers were in on some of the scripts for.
Yeah.
Do you guys follow the same rules? Like you get the script and you can read through it and you can adjust certain aspects of the rules to it, or do you actually wait for the season to finish out?
Well, we don't want to adjust gameplay that might reveal some secret that hasn't happened in the show, right? If there is something, we wouldn't want to violate that. So that wouldn't appear in the game until after it appeared on the show. So we just keep that in mind so that we don't let any secrets out.
So
we wouldn't. What if we would have done a princess card in series 1? Might not have been too fun.
Not for us.
So will we get, since we've heard the whole Twilight Sparkle thing, Princess Cadence, Celestia, Luna, will we see any of those alicorns in the series anytime soon?
There will be at least one of those in set 1 for sure. And of course, there's no character that hasn't been seen on the show that is necessarily not going to be on cards. Period.
No, I would say eventually every glimmer of every character eventually will be in there.
Yeah.
You guys aren't afraid to use background ponies for event cards and whatnot?
Absolutely not.
So when it comes to fan favorites like Ditsy Doo or Lyra, do you guys try to come up with special rules just for them, or is it just we need an event card for such and such thing? What pony would fit best with it?
It's a mixture. There's a combination of here's this card we want to be in the set. What would make sense to be on this card gameplay wise, and here's a card that we want to be a blue rare. What character would make sense to go on there? It's more of the second than the first, but there are definitely cards in this set that are what they are because of who they are.
The game was shown at Gen Con, and it's being shown here at New York Comic Con, and the game is very close to being released. And so far, everybody only knows as a November deal.
That's all we know.
That's all so, how far into production are the final cards?
Well, we haven't actually turned the presses on yet. The hopefully this week some things will start. Hopefully we'll get proofs this week, but we're not sure. The intention all along was to ship in the first week of November, but we're crossing our fingers that we can come close to that. We have some pretty major commitments with big retailers where we have to meet our commitments. Right? So people are working every waking hour trying to make it happen.
So, pony tournaments. Well, of course, it's going to happen, but once the game is released, how soon will Enterplay try to make their own tournament for the best pony solver?
Well, immediately. The production will include tournament kits. So we'll have, prior to the release, we'll have a select number of pre-release events, maybe 10 or 12 around the country, and then we'll have, on a broader scale, we'll have release events where where it could be open to maybe to any retailer that wants to have a release event, and then those will lead into tournaments. And so we have planned organized play kits that'll have a different foil card for every month, and similar to what other people are doing and what retailers have been asking for. So we've been talking to consumers and to distributors, and in the last week or so we've been talking to retailers to hear what they want.
And I'm pretty sure we would like to, as long as everything goes the way we'd like to, have like national or international championships. There's no reason not to.
Yeah. The goal is absolutely to have world championships. We'll see.
Gameloft's mobile pony game is pretty popular. Once that was released and you saw how popular it became to all the fans, did you ever have the cross thought of maybe having a digital and a physical card game would be the way to go?
You always have to consider that, but we're going to launch the card game as a card game, see what the response is. It's a very expensive venture to do a trading card game electronically. It's quite a commitment, and we're making quite a commitment now. So we'll see how this goes, and then if the demand is there, then we'll absolutely do it. But we'll see the demand first.
I want to go. I want to get into the game. There are set rules where a pony can have a special ability, such as take away a certain amount of energy, or even allow you to draw more than one card on your turn. Will we see any buffers that'll like completely change the rules? One, like a trap card from Yu-Gi-Oh or anything like that?
Could you rephrase the question? I'm sorry.
Like, would there be kind of like trap cards? Would there be anything that players can set out ahead of time?
Ahead of time. Well, the way that troublemakers are played is you spend one action token and you play Troublemaker from your hand face down at the problem of your choice. And at the beginning of your next turn, or unless some sort of effect happens to reveal it early, but otherwise, normally, the beginning of your next turn, you reveal that Troublemaker. It might have an immediate effect, it might not, and then it's on your opponent's side of the problem, antagonizing them, causing them negative effects, making them so they can't score there. And if it's a villain card, it has an even bigger effect. The other way that you can actually do things on the opponent's turn is there are event cards that can be played. They say right on the card when an event card can be played, that specific one. And there are many that can be played off turn, during the opponent's turn, as surprises. So there's lots you can do to in Gen Con, not as much. In what's going to be shipped, definitely more dynamic, more doing stuff, not just seeing what the opponent does on their turn and then hoping that you can counteract that on your turn.
Should we give you an overview of the game?
Are
you there yet?
I got to play a little bit of the Gen Con version yesterday.
Good.
And the rules were simple to get into, and you could learn about it pretty quickly. So going with the the way the game is set up,
Mhm.
drawing 5 cards and of course having 1 card at home. How do you decide who goes first, or who drawing cards and shuffling decks?
I'll do the real quick overview, just from the beginning. When you make your decks, you make a 45 card minimum. You could have over 45, or draw deck. That draw deck contains your things that are your friends, your resources, your events, the stuff that you generally use the most to solve the problems.
Built around.
And you choose your main character ahead of time along to go with your deck. So there's synergy, not just color synergy, but effect synergy. And your 10 card problem deck. All of these 3 together are meant to go together. You know, when you're first getting started, you're going to have a starter deck and you're going to play with what you have. But as you get boosters, all 3 of these things have synergies you want to try to focus on. So when you you drop your draw deck, you drop your problem deck, you drop your main character, and you just flip a coin for who goes first. That's completely random. And from there, people draw 6 cards. It's actually 6 cards in the final version.
Okay.
And from there you play, yeah. First player doesn't draw a card like many other CCGs. And play goes on.
How did you decide who goes first? Did you mention that?
Flipping a coin, rolling a die, rock, paper, scissors, whoever's youngest, house rules.
Okay. So with using the main characters like Pinky and Twilight and whatnot, in the future series, will we get other characters like Trixie or
There will be lots of
Luna that we can use as part of the main, like at home main characters with a 20% cool on the backside
well,
and all
actually,
that?
it's not 20% cooler anymore, but yes. In the initial release, there are 6 main character cards for the main 6 of the show. But as we move forward, there will absolutely be non-main 6 main character cards. Yeah. We already know for a fact at least one of them that's in the next set. I think we probably already have all of them set. So yeah.
We already have slated out a 3-year plan of releases,
Right.
And when we want to have certain characters appear in the game. So there's going to be quite a variety, and it'll build every time we have another release, which will be every 3 to 4 months.
So when building your deck, are you only allowed to have one main character, or are you actually allowed to build up on that?
You start and play with your single main character in play on their start side in front of you in your home area, and throughout play they can be moved between problems, moved back home. They all have conditions on them that let you flip them over to a more powerful version that has more power and has new abilities on them. But you cannot shuffle main characters into your draw deck.
Okay.
That's it.
So what's the main idea with home? Since you lay your main character out there, but you're allowed to put cards, like draw cards and put them anywhere, and then move your home or your main card from home to any problem. What's the idea of home? What's the point of it?
It's when a problem is completely solved and goes away and a new problem comes out, any characters that were at that problem come home. So that's your home base, that's your HQ, you know what I mean? And there is a home limit designed into the game such that over a certain limit you have to choose which of your friends are going to stick around and which ones are going to go to your discard pile. And that's an important strategic part of deciding which ones are going to be solving problems. How are you going to do you have enough yellow on the board to play Fluttershy, stuff like that.
So is there any way that players can just stack powerful cards at home and have a disadvantage when it comes to a new problem?
Yeah, but that's completely gameplay decisions, like in the moment, you know what I mean? People definitely could play powerful friends to home, and most likely they probably should have played them to a problem, but there's going to be cards that have abilities on them that can only be used when they're at home. So you may want to play them home, use their abilities, and never actually send them to a problem. That's totally their strategy, their prerogative.
So you have a limit of 6 cards in your hand.
You start with 6 and you can have up to 8.
Okay. You start with 6 and up to 8. What exactly is the limit from home? Like how many cards can you have at home? And those cards that are in your hand, the 6 to 8 cards in your hand, how many of those can you play at home at once?
To play cards, you spend action tokens, and you get action tokens every turn. You start with getting 2 per turn, and as the score of the game increases, as the highest score of the game increases, the game accelerates to the point where you're getting 3, 4, and then 5 at most action tokens per turn. So there's the limit of how many things you can do in a turn is based on action tokens, realistically. So basically, to answer your question is, if they have 5 cards in their hand that all cost 1 each, then they could play 5 to their home in 1 turn. Then during the cleanup phase, during the end phase, they'd have to get rid of some because they probably over their home limit.
So how many players can play at once? At the on the show floor, there was a lot of one-on-one battles. Is there any way that you can play with 2, 4, 6 people at once?
We focused really strongly on making sure we had a solid 1v1 game on release, and it's been really sitting in our heads that once we know it's out there, that we want to all sit down and make sure that we can then get a multiplayer version out. The basics of it would be that you'd still only bring your 1 problem deck and you'd put it down, and the problems to your right and to your left are the only ones that you can address along with your own. So it kind of like broadens your scope to 3. But the major rules of like how many opponents are affected by certain cards that you have, et cetera, are not set in stone quite yet. So when we have that information, we'll definitely release it digitally, or possibly in a future set. That does depend on. This depends on how things work out.
So with going back towards the troublemakers and the problem cards, how many unique troublemaker and problem cards are there for each deck? Since there's 6 main characters, and of course you're gonna want your problem cards to both be different sets. How many different cards are there?
I actually can't recall off the top of my head how many different problems and how many different troublemakers there are. There's over 200 cards in the set. I think there's just over 100 friends. But from there, I don't have the breakdowns memorized, unfortunately.
Okay. So
I know there's at least 20.
oh wow, that's a lot.
At least 20.
You have to have 10, right?
Oh, the problems?
Yeah.
Gosh, there's definitely more than 20 problems. I just can't recall how many troublemakers for sure. But when you actually build your deck, just so people know, no more than 3 of the same card in your draw deck, no more than 2 of the same problem in your problem deck.
So there's a limit to ensure that
You don't stack your deck. You don't want to have 10 of the same problem in your problem deck and have that problem be like the problem you want every time to help you the best, to be the best synergy with your deck. That wouldn't be in the spirit of collectible card games, really.
Right. So troublemakers out of the way, the problem solving cards out of the way. When you do expansions for, you say you have a 3-year plan for it. When you do expansions, would there be troublemaker cards that boast the problems, that acts like a problem boaster? So if your friend is close to solving a problem and you're not, you can probably play like a troublemaker card that ups the number of points that they need.
There may already be one.
Oh, all right. Okay. So now getting down to the actual cards. These cards that are sitting in front of us right now are not the same on the show floor, right?
You're correct. Yeah.
So these
They were supposed to be, by the way.
Oh,
We had cards printed so that we could use cards here, but
Right.
the cards we received unfortunately had a back on both sides.
Oh, okay.
That's some file issues.
So looking at the newer cards, what's different between these and the ones that were shown at Gen Con and on the show floor right
First of all, the layouts, the actual the user interface is refined. It's been
It's more
refined.
polished.
Yeah, for sure. For example, in the past, all the friend cards are the same color background, but now you'll see Twilight over here, purple, Pinky over here, pink. I mean, just so you know at a glance, without having to look in the edges, the corners. You know what you have in your hand. The overall UI is more refined. The boxes are more where we wanted them to be. But
Move some icons around
Yeah.
a bit.
most significantly, there's improved iconography. We've integrated the action token symbol into cards, both as a quick reading and learning, to help with learning the game. There's traits on, but this is a resource that is also an asset. So the traits for different card types have been added to the cards appropriately. The biggest difference is that of these, let's say there's, I can't remember the exact number, so let's just say there's 230 cards. Of those 230, let's say approximately 215 of those weren't seen at Gen Con. Like most of the cards at Gen Con have been improved or replaced, and when they were replaced, they were improved as well. So really the biggest difference, the biggest change, the most improvement to the game is the game text is significantly overhauled. For example, this card right here. This type of card didn't exist around the time of Gen Con. At least not in the Gen Con decks, that's for sure. Temporary boost cards, things that you would spend one action token, get a temporary boost, goes away at the end of the turn. It doesn't give you the long-term investment of a more expensive friend, but it lets you suddenly jump ahead in points. That makes sense.
Shaking around.
Sure, good call. So,
yeah, at Gen Con, we were calling it we were calling them playtest tournaments. So we were looking for everybody's feedback so that we could adapt. And having a lot of people test at the same time, we get a different feedback than just having 2 or 4 people play test over a weekend. So it was very valuable, and I think that we were in our very first running of it where we identified things that had to change. It was pretty awesome, pretty significant, I think.
So when making these changes from Gen Con using the feedback, what was the most difficult aspect of some of the changes, especially since you announced that the game was scheduled for a November release and you're still playtesting?
I don't know. I have no idea what the most challenging ones were. We have quite a few game designers that are working on the project. Anything come to mind? Something significant?
the biggest single challenge between Gen Con and now? I think I might have misunderstood the question.
Since you have the newer, more refined decks out, what was the biggest challenge with taking the feedback and putting them into the new changes?
I would say refining the pacing of the game. We all felt like the initial Gen Con version, starting at one action token return at the beginning, felt just not as fun as it could be. So between coming up with the idea of having starting problems, specific subset of problem cards that you need to have as your top card, along with starting at 2 action tokens per turn, right from the get-go, you're playing 1 or 2 cards per turn and making decisions rather than passing your first turn to store 1 action token, because that felt like the best decision that you could possibly make many times.
So the newer, more refined deck, you said that these weren't the completely final ones that we'll see in November.
Well, it's near final.
Near final, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what final touches are needed when going to the printing press and making sure they come out?
Well, like the trademark line might have to come over. This trademark line might have to come over to the left.
Yeah, exactly.
Might be some last-minute R that we noticed wasn't in a word, something like that.
Yeah, like a single icon. I mean, out of 200 cards, maybe 2 icons of these ones they're not supposed to be there and they actually are, or they need to be there and they aren't. You know, that kind of thing. It's just, and of course, if there is, if anything we find to the second they go to the printer, if we find something that we just suddenly realize is, oops, playtesters didn't playtest that one card enough and it would be bad for the game, then we'll take care of it before it goes out. You know, a balanced competitive game for people who are interested in that, along with a fun, lighthearted game for people who are interested in that, they're both important to us.
So one of my final questions. Release. You guys, everybody knows mid-November, and the games are available for pre-order off Interplay's online store. Mm-hmm. What is the closest date you guys can give us for release?
We're still hoping for November 15th pre-release events. That's what we're fighting for.
Okay.
And frankly, we're going to have to ship by then. We just have to.
So it's the end goal. It's
No,
the
we
big
have
push.
to do it.
Oh, okay. All right. So, favorite card to play, and for any card that you've actually shown off, you're allowed to talk about. What would be your favorite card to play?
Oh, jeez. Well, one of the most overpowered cards in the set, and of course overpowered is fun, Rainbow Dash is ultra rare. When you play it, one-time effect, when you play it, she lets you bring up to 3 friends from home along with her at the same time.
Wow.
It's pretty ridiculous, yeah.
So you all the main
She's expensive. She's
Okay.
expensive, but you know, there's some really powerful cards in there and mixed in with the rest.
So all the main 6 have this special ultra rare ability.
You know, there's a cycle of the main 6. The cycle is a collection that all go together in some way. There's a cycle of main 6 straddling common and uncommon, and there's a cycle of main 6 straddling rare to ultra rare. So, strewn throughout.
So that random foil card might be the big expensive key that you can use to make a comeback.
Sure, yeah. I mean, there's most CCGs wouldn't be as fun as they are if they didn't have cards that surprise. This is a game again. You know what I mean? Like, oh no, we're still going.
So favorite episode, since you guys are obviously into the show. Favorite episode so far.
Too many pinkies.
That's a good episode. I'm a Pinkie Pie fan myself. I'm a big sucker for the Smile song, so Friend Indeed might be it. Or I'm a big sucker for the songs in the show in general. So the Magical Mystery Cure. I mean, Twilacorn drama aside, I don't care. I don't care.
All those
Great
ponies
music.
jumping up and down, going Frank, 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 Frank.
All right.
That's
So big final question, of course, seeing how pony fans and all, it has to be asked. Favorite pony?
Pinkie.
So I'm going to give the brony answer. Is how can you have a favorite pony? What do you mean, main pony?
Well, okay, for me,
I'm telling you, I ask at a show like this, I'll ask 20 or 30 people who their favorite pony. Nobody can commit. They be like, oh, it's this one. Well, what do you mean? It depends on the situation. If it's a main pony, I think it's funny.
overall, I would say
Good
Scootaloo.
fun.
My favorite
Really?
Scootaloo overall. But I had the main 6, I say Fluttershy.
You're not alone.
It's probably Rainbow Dash.
Okay.
It has been rarity up to now, but I think Rainbow Dash.
Oh.
What do you think of that?